Well, every month we check in with our relationship guide, Kat Roby.
Since March is typically associated with wearing green, we thought we'd talk about the green as it affects relationships. And we're talking about that green-eyed monster of jealousy. But Kat, actually, before we start, do you even know where that term came from?
It's some like Shakespearean reference. There's like
okay.
The gall made the person kind of green, like it's very sickly, the belly's upset. So kind of goes back really far.
Wow, I always wondered where that came from.
That's really interesting. And on this topic of jealousy, there are so many kind of aspects of jealousy that we can experience in a relationship. So maybe kind of run down some of those.
Oh my goodness, there's so many.
I know.
Coworkers that you're not familiar with, or friends that might show up out of nowhere, or just not knowing who is connected to who on Facebook, you know, or like, why do you know this person, or why are you getting text messages from someone that I don't know? And really all of it comes from, you know, a sort of insecurity, maybe within the person having those feelings, or maybe within the relationship.
Wow. So have you seen ways that people maybe try to control those fears?
Yeah, that's where I think it gets, seems to me that it gets really reinforced with primetime drama or with reality TV. You know, you're texting constantly, or you're checking the Facebook pages, or you're, you know, looking for specific things that are going to back up your story. But the thing is that we need to remember is that you've already made a story. You've made a story that means that you're going to like someone else more than me. I'm easily replaceable. I need to not trust my partner for some reason based on what? I don't know, you know, so it's all these different things that go into that flashpoint story, and then we're looking for all these places of evidence. Oh, well, I've seen you talking to her before. I've seen you with him. Why didn't I see this before? And really, it might not be anything.
That's a good point, and I think I'm probably guilty of everything you just said,
which is an eye-opening
who aren't,
experience.
to be honest.
Yeah.
So then I guess the question is, how do we get out of this, you know, rut of making up that story? How do we feel more comfortable and not jump to the worst possible scenario?
Yeah.
You know,
it's uncomfortable. Actually, it's a lot of interior work where you maybe your thing is checking the phone messages, or going through someone's email account because they leave their computer open. Doing that is feeding that monster. So since we're talking about a green-eyed monster, it's feeding that part of you that wants to have evidence that this is a trustworthy situation, and trust does not come with evidence. That's the problem. So being able to stop yourself before you check it, make sure that you're asking questions out of a curious, neutral place, like, oh, I don't know that person, and how would I know her or him? And, you know, being able to say, why are you there? Why were you talking to her? You know, like, is a very different vibe. And so if you can keep it in that neutral place and maybe not do the things that you do that calm you down, you're going to feel it kind of well up inside of you, and you're going to do some work about that. Basically trying to tolerate the anxiety that comes up, slow it down inside, get yourself to check whether or not the questions are real, the story is real. You know, if something's really going on with your partner, would there be other cues? Are you just running with this? Are you just feeling particularly blah lately? Whatever that thing is, you have to slow yourself down to be able to get into that mode of checking your story. And if you do have pieces of your story that seem to corroborate, then yeah, maybe you talk with your spouse or your partner about it a little bit more. Or maybe you're seeing that this is happening quite often, and you haven't wanted to see it in the past, and maybe it is an issue. But really, none of that can happen unless you slow yourself down and slow your reaction down.
Well, this is what I see is that it's a very touchy way on both sides, because if somebody over here sees something or hears something that makes them feel uncomfortable, they don't want to go to the other person and seem like the jealous one with, you know, but they want to find a good communicative way to go to them. But also this person on the other side also has to find a way to make them feel comfortable without, oh, don't be that way, I can't believe you're that way. So I think that the conversation has to actually be to both people. If your spouse or your significant other comes to you and says, you know what, that kind of made me feel a little uncomfortable, maybe the way you guys were conversating, or, you know, whatever it may be at that time, they have to learn to receive it well, right?
Absolutely. That's a big piece of just being honest within relationships and having that communication. But being able to say, I love the way you just said it, that made me feel uncomfortable, versus you shouldn't be doing that. Right? So the great way to talk about it is, I felt really insecure when I didn't see you all evening at the ball that you took me to when you were with so-and-so instead. Like, oh, maybe they didn't realize that you felt that way. Maybe they didn't realize how much they'd fallen into a certain conversation. And being able to check it out, like, oh, you know what, I could see that would be right. But you're bringing up a really good point. If there's no possibility of having a discussion about it, then it's going to be an automatic. upset fight.
And it makes that first person even more feel more jealous because they're being so, I didn't do anything, and they're being very stand up. So what do you suggest? How do we approach that?
I think so. The first part is being vulnerable with the fact that you did feel kind of shaken by it. So yeah, maybe I'm feeling a little bit insecure, but I want you to know this is what this felt like to me. I wanted to check it out with you.
Yeah.
Is there something more going on that I need to know about? And maybe they would say yes or no, but the delivery is important. If you're not already coming with an evidence-packed story, then you're going to get a little bit further with it. And then the other party being able to say, oh, I can see how you would see that. That wasn't my intention at all. I know it sounds very lovely in this conversation,
wouldn't it be great?
right?
Yeah, easier said than done.
But that's the intention behind it, is let's get
Right.
curious instead of making a story ourselves.
I think that's great. And in talking about stopping that jealous feeling, there's something that you said that kind of hit home to me is be the person you want to be.
Yeah.
Take a moment, stop before you talk. What kind of person do you want to be in that moment?
Right.
Is that kind of what that means?
Who do you want to show up as in your relationship, right? And especially I like that because we can oftentimes fall into what the other person's doing is wrong, and we could do the blame game the entire time.
Right.
Just instead of worrying about what the other person is doing or not doing, be who you want to be in the relationship. Do you want to be someone who's constantly checking the phone or the emails or the texts? Don't be that.
Yeah.
But you also might find out that this person, well, you will find out actually, that this person is either trustworthy or not trustworthy. But you controlling it is basically you having a relationship with your version of that person.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't control it.
Right.
So many good pieces of advice and things to really kind of self-check.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Kat, always a pleasure to have you on this show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
And for more relationship advice, you can just call Kat Roby at 906-3392 or go online to robycounseling.com.